So what's this? A video? A video by Jake? He doesn't post videos anymore, but what's going on, guys, in the works? And yeah, it's been a few days, but YouTube has finally settled down because it was broken there for a while. Sub boxes were not working, and there was really no point in making a video if no one was going to be able to see it. So instead of stressing myself out, I was just like, I'll just wait to post the next video. But we were playing with the M60 here on Nose Hair Canals, and I was just fooling around in this game. I was like, let's get out the big old hog and run around, because I was playing with a couple of my buddies. And you know, the M60's a weapon that typically, when you think of suppression, you think of the M60, you think of the M240 Bravo, and you think of what, the PKP. And I have been on an LMG kick lately. You guys, if you've been watching my videos, you know I've been playing a lot with the different belt-fed LMGs, partly just because I'm trying to finish up the Mastery Quest, and M60 and PKP almost done. Then I got to finish up a couple of the other small ones, but I just haven't had a ton of time to do that. It just seems like time is it's hard to get time. I wish you could just have all the free time in the world to game whenever you want, but unfortunately that's not the case. But if you guys did watch my video yesterday that I had up for a little while, I was live streaming yesterday with Daniel Matros, or Zinto as you guys probably know him as. We were doing like a charity stream. I know a lot of you guys came over there. It was a blast, and I was using my M60 throughout all of that, so I was having a pretty good time with it, and I continued playing after I got off, and this is one of those games that I got. But you know, one of the interesting things we talked about was suppression, and he seemed to be on the side that, yeah, you know, people don't like suppression. There's no secret that suppression was one of the most controversial mechanics of Battlefield 3, to the point where they actually re-investigated it throughout the lifespan of Battlefield 3. I mean, if you look at it, it went from being just there to being really crazy. How many of you guys remember the Great Suppression? I know you guys remember the Great Suppression because it was pretty bad. You know, after that first big patch, suppression was just crazy, so it was all over the place. And they went back in and they brought it back down to earth a little bit. But it looks like with Battlefield 4, it's going to be a whole lot different. It's going to be there. It's still going to be there with all weapons. I think that was pretty much confirmed, that suppression is still there in the slightest amount with like assault rifles and PDWs and stuff like that. But where you really are going to get suppressed are with the LMGs and with some of the bolt action snipers. So that brings in a whole new dynamic. So now if you want to be a suppressor, if you want to be out there suppressing the living daylights out of people, you're gonna need a big old LMG like the M60, which is fine. I'm sure most of you guys will be like, yeah, that's fine with me. And I agree. I think it sounds awesome. But the one redeeming factor about the Battlefield 3 suppression mechanic, and I know you guys are like probably shaking your fist at the suppression, like suppression, was the ammo caliber affected how much suppression it did. So a 5.56 round wasn't going to do as much as the 7.62 from the M60. So that's why you saw the M60 do more suppression than the M249. It's just logical, and I like that. I would like to see them take that even a step further. So like the 9mm pistols or the PDWs that shoot pistol rounds, those should not do as much suppression as, let's say, an M16, you know, an L85, a Scar L, you know, just not to be biased towards any weapon. Any of the assault rifles, any of the carbines, the engineer weapons, they shouldn't be doing the same amount of suppression. I think that was one of where they kind of dropped the ball there. It's like, okay, so an MP7 is going to suppress you the same as like an L85. Because I don't think that would be the case. I think the L85 would most likely, you know, put out some more suppression. Same with like an M16. It's probably going to suppress you more than a PP2000 that shoots 600 rounds per minute. So I would like to see there be more factors in the whole suppression mechanic. I would like to see maybe they take rate of fire into account. I don't know. That might be too difficult. It might make the gunplay mechanics just a little bit too crazy. But you never know. There's all sorts of ways they could take suppression. Now, a lot of the stuff we've seen is unconfirmed. You know, we saw a Battlefield 4 alpha build basically at E3. You know, plenty of people have been playing the alpha for Battlefield 4 to the point where we kind of know what suppression is going to be like in a nutshell, but that's not to say it's going to be like that in the actual game. You know, there's a lot of changes they can still make to make Battlefield 4 suppression completely different. I mean, they could flip the switch right before release date and be like, hey, there's going to be a day one patch where suppression is going to be back to the way it was. So I think there's still a lot of questions we have to answer. I mean, we know that suppression is mainly going to be focused on the LMGs now and the bolt actions. That much is known. But what we really don't know is how much suppression are the assault rifles going to do? How much suppression are shotguns going to do? I mean, look at frag rounds. Frag rounds are the most effective round in the entire game of Battlefield 3 at suppressing people. Is it going to stay like that? I mean, that was the one cool thing about those rounds, were that they actually suppressed people to the point where you couldn't do anything, because I think they do like double, I think, of a 7.62 round, something along those lines. I think a 7.62 round, the percentage number they give it is like 10% suppression, and I think frag rounds is like 20%. You know, I could be wrong on that. It doesn't really matter. All I know is it's a lot. I mean, if you remember the USAS frag round days, you couldn't shoot the broadside of a barn even if you weren't getting hit because you were getting suppressed. It was just ridiculous. But anyways, that's beside the point. Like I was saying, there was a lot of things that they could change day one where we could see suppression come back in a whole new way. So I think there's a lot of questions to be answered. I think there's a lot of opinions that can still sway their viewpoint. Because I mean, if you look at the way they changed suppression with the first patch, they obviously are listening to people to a certain extent. And I think that's one of the reasons why they changed it, because they're like, okay, well, suppression wasn't where we wanted it to be. Maybe we went a little bit too far. I think they kind of got it a little bit balanced there with the 3rd and 4th patches. But needless to say, Battlefield 4 is going to be a little bit different. So let me know in the comments, how would you guys like to see suppression implemented? Now, we already know it's coming with LMGs. We talked about that. But do you want it to be ammo size based? Do you want it to be another factor in there? There's all sorts of things. You know, there's probably something I'm not even thinking about. So maybe like how far away you are, because obviously the further away you are, the slower your bullet velocity, you know, it tends to slow down. That's why we get bullet drop. Maybe that'll be a factor. So if someone's getting sniped by an M60 on a bipod like this, maybe it doesn't suppress them as much as if I was up close shooting at them like that. So a lot of things they can do with it. I think there's a lot of ways we can take it to where it's not so frustrating. I know a lot of people don't want it to give random bullet deviation, but that's for an entirely different video, and I won't even get into that. But hope you guys did enjoy this. Hopefully I'm back on track. It looks like YouTube's fixed, so I can post videos more on the regular. If you missed my past videos, here is a chance to catch up, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.